Now, we will proceed to our very last, two last speakers, change speakers. And want to thank all of you. Your messages have been coming in very thick. Unfortunately, we are not able to read messages on this edition. And for those of you, I need to remind you that this recording is available on YouTube shortly after the show is over.
What's your name again?
So you can listen as often or as many times as you want. The same is the first edition that was held on the 15th of January. Papa Cause says that really enjoying this type of show. The movement away from the asinine politics, the holding up of the mirror to ourselves across various spheres, the diversity and varied backgrounds of the contributors, the all-encompassing angles. That's the way to go. Good. Joy Newsfile production team, thank you very much for those messages. KB says that, thank you so much for such a great program. I hope this will prick the conscience of all of us. It has to. And it must prick our conscience as to what we must do. Public discourses from today should be elevated from this weak and abusive political noise to one that will transform our way of life. I cannot thank you enough. May God bless you and the team at Joy News. Thank you all so very much. I'll take one more. This is from Atapuku Callings, and he says that we need such production and not the usual partisan banter on our airwaves. I'm indeed lifted today. Thank you. That's what we sought to do. Now, let's get to our next change speaker. And she is Affi Agbenyo. And many of you didn't know she's Affi Agbenyo. She has 2 master's degrees in research and development and educational leadership. So she has dedicated her life to social impact and inclusive development, gender transformation, TVET skills development, and she does development communication. Affi, thank you so very much for making time to join us.
Thank you, Samson, and thank you for the invitation to do this. The theme I chose out of the big conversation is that governance standards are in free fall, and I have fears that we will normalize it. And the thoughts I will share on these are not really new. They are the sentiments of a lot of us that I am putting together. I say so also because I sample thoughts from many people from diverse backgrounds to put this together. I have few words for government, especially on the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, and a couple of words also for our press freedom ratings. People my age have lived long enough to witness 4 government transitions, at least in Ghana. And apart from violent-free elections, citizens hope that each transition will offer better living standards, reduce poverty levels, and also reduce inequality. We hope for improvement in access and quality of education. We hope that there's an improvement in public infrastructure. We hope that basic amenities like water and electricity will be delivered. We hope that government will implement strategies that will engender the creation of decent jobs and working conditions. The Ghanaian people hardly ask for much. We barely ask for much. We ask for the barest minimum, in my opinion. Our young people are willing to work. They only expect a friendly labor market and humane tax regimes to support them, especially those venturing into entrepreneurship. In 2016, we transitioned with so much hope sold to us in flowery languages. We have the men. I'm sure most of us remember these languages. We are here to deliver world-class governance. I was really impressed by that statement. I can remember where I was sitting when I heard that. We are in a hurry. We are in a hurry got us to also accommodate the huge numbers that we got as ministers. We're willing to accommodate all that because we are in a hurry. The current government enjoy the most goodwill from citizens. With lofty ideas captured in exciting slogans, they convinced all of us that they were right for the governance job. They promised to create jobs, I've mentioned that. But we're here. Income security was one of the promises. Respect for human rights also was one of the promises. People had dreams rekindled in their hearts to see a Ghana where everyone has equal opportunity to flourish. A state where inequality is fought head on. And a just place where all of us thrive in liberty. Today, not only are such dreams dimmed, unfortunately, many people are giving up on ever witnessing a better Ghana. The standard of governance, as I mentioned, is in free fall, with little or no guarantee for upholding freedom of speech and association, no protection against political party-sponsored attacks. There's a total lack of respect for inclusion and citizen participation, in my opinion. Our governance architecture today is making nonsense of who a citizen is. We are subtly developing a class system where some people's voices matter more than others. I think this is an affront to our democracy, especially when we are participating, when we are practicing participatory development, democracy, if I can put it that way. The management of public institutions are handed over to people like birthrights. They step into these positions feeling entitled to champagne lives. They disrespect long-serving public officials and time-tested their system to their own benefits. They're not doing this to disrupt system for the good, no. They do this for their own benefit. More than ever, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection is leaderless. With a caretaker minister who is undoubtedly overwhelmed by her own responsibilities. In such difficult times, which we all agree, all speakers have mentioned that times are difficult, the most vulnerable of us, the most marginalized of us, require innovative interventions from government to survive. But there's no ministry taking care of that. The only time the minister's absence bothered the presidency was when the minister was needed as a parliamentarian to cast her vote for the e-levy bill to be passed. In actual fact, a levy that was even going to aggravate our situation. That's when she was needed. The affirmative action bill, as mentioned by Madam Lamatu, and I reiterate here, has not seen any significant progress over the years. In recent years, thrilling conversations have been championed by young people on gender discrimination, sexual exploitation, gender-based violence, reproductive health rights. We've even had issues on period tax. And this is where I want to commend one champion of period tax, Abel Delali, my very good friend, who's been giving me a lot of pressure these days. The ministry has failed to harness these renewed passions to advance gender and social transformation in Ghana. For instance, there have been topical domestic violence issues. There's been topical sexual harassment cases. These cases have been worthy of media attention, yet the ministry has been missing in action. As a country, the lack of shelter and limited access to justice for victims and survivors of sexual and gender-based violence continue to endanger the lives of vulnerable people. These and many others are what a ministry should be doing. They should be leading these charges, championing women and children's rights, and the social protection of the vulnerable. But who is making the case for the different ways in which unemployment impacts women and men? Who is demanding researched interventions to address the gender dynamics of unemployment, especially youth unemployment? Who is leading the charge to get women and young people at the decision table where issues that concerns them are being discussed? It's as though the ministry does not exist. And that is unacceptable. Not enough has been done since the passage of the Domestic Workers Regulation either. Several international conventions to support women's right to work and to stay in jobs remain unratified by Parliament. There is no minister to lead that. As a matter of urgency, I think a substantive minister should be assigned with specific tasks and timelines. It's not acceptable. We will not do that to the Ministry of Finance. We will not do that to even the Office of the Chief of Staff. Why do we do that to such an important ministry? It's a precedent we do not want. Now, the quest for promoting decent jobs remains a lost battle. While technical and vocational education and training have experienced significant attention over the years, and I must commend the government in this regard, training to work transition remains a considerable challenge. We do not have a coordinated strategy to support learners' transition from training to work. Whether as self-employed or even persons to be employed, there's not a clear-cut strategy for this. Government job creation interventions and vehicles are scattered. They are not inclusive, and they are not coordinated. There is no directive for such interventions. I hope that the newly established TVET service, which is also something I want to commend government about, will provide policy direction to coordinate such interventions. Skills gap analysis that has been conducted by the Commission for TVET is a place to start from, and I commend the Commission for TVET also for taking such steps. Policies like the school feeding program, LEAP, our best policy, the free SHS, and other government cushion efforts are facing implementation challenges that could have been avoided. The reason, in my opinion, is that we have a government that does not have money. That is true. But most importantly, we have a government that implements public policies and interventions to shame so-called enemies instead of the common good. So their egos precede the common good. They will not listen to dissenting voices, not even that of experts. They label dissenting voices as their enemies. The human capital component of LEAP, for example, is not receiving the needed attention. This must be given the needed attention through an intersectoral approach, drawing experience and resources, in my opinion, from agencies that are responsible for skills development and education, as well as relevant development and funding agencies. I was very surprised by government actors being surprised at our 2021 press freedom rating. Because really, you do not sit aloof, sit in WhatsApp platforms and have a good laugh, watch some party apparatchiks sit on social media and haul insults on every dissenting voice, and be surprised at your press freedom ratings. You do not create an environment where party foot soldiers feel so powerful enough to threaten people, especially activists, with their jobs. You do not pretend to be surprised at your press freedom ratings when state institutions are used to frustrate young activists and expect to score high scores on press ratings. High-profile government spokespersons have dismissed the death of Ahmed Swali. Sadly so. They have also gone ahead to even ridicule death threats that journalists report. What is defined as the press has changed. So establishing TV stations, radio stations, and attempting to control traditional media spaces will not cover up for the bully and dangerous dissenting citizens' experience in this country. Many people who otherwise were passionate about governance and held governments accountable have resorted to self-censorship. I am not the only one saying this. Even the report is mentioning this. And this is so because they are disappointed. And also they are protecting their sanity, as well as for some, their lives. This is not good for democracy. The standard of governance is in free fall. And I am worried that this will be normalized. I am worried because we have a history of new governments comparing their records to old governments. So as the standards fall, our standard of measurement fall. And that is dangerous. They don't compare their records to even their own manifestos sometimes, let alone to best practices or what is excellence. I am worried about the falling governance standards because it leaves young people with no inspiration. It leaves us with no proper role models and no legacy to protect. Gone were the days when speeches of political leaders were spirited and inspire action in us. We cannot say same in recent years. There's a pervading lack of integrity. What political actors say in their speeches is not what they do. And so it does not cause us to want to move. Integrity matters. And political leadership in this country is leading the lack of integrity that is pervading us. But I am hopeful. I am hopeful not only in feelings, really, because I've come to the knowledge that hope is a strategy of desiring something better and working towards it. And so it is possible. And in this regard, I charge myself and all persons listening, especially those of us sitting on the fence, due to disappointment, those who are nearing despair about the Ghana project, to allow ourselves to feel hope. Let hope seep into our souls. Let it cause a stir in our spirit. And let it move us to some form of action, no matter how little, for a better Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. And that has been the presentation by Affi Agbenyo. And I believe that you continue to assimilate what you are hearing, even as you send us messages of thanks for a refreshing type of programming. And this we are committed to doing every quarter. We will move on to hear from our very last change speaker, and hopefully bring one of them back, the very first speaker, to do something special. But before that, let's take a quick break.